Haired Mama podcast featuring yours truly. I am so thankful you guys are tuning back in. I do have to apologize. My schedule has been off a little bit the last 2 weeks, so I haven't been posting regularly. However, I am super pumped about this episode because I have somebody that is inspirational, somebody that has worked hard for where she's at in life. And if I told you that I met her over social media, TikTok specifically, would you guys believe me? I don't know. I don't know. So I've invited my good friend Marla. Hey girl, how are you?
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
No problem. So you know what? Let's get her introduction done. She'll tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly, why we're here. And I'm just again, I'm so super pumped that I'm able to share the not only this podcast with you, but also kind of analyze some of the things that I've been saying in my past episodes with an actual. Can we call you a therapist?
Yes,
With an
I
actual
graduated
therapist.
last week, a few days ago.
That's awesome.
I am a therapist, yes.
That's so. Is that hard to believe?
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, I have to update all my socials and all my handles now. And now it doesn't say student anymore. It says MSW therapist.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, okay, let's get started. So, give us a little bit of your background. Like I said, I met her through social media, but you'll see why she's such a beautiful person. So, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Marla. I am a teen mom. I got married extremely young. I was 18 with a baby in high school, and I did have to drop out because my baby was sick when she was born. She was a preemie, so that left me hanging. No one wanted to help me out, so yeah, so I had to drop out of high school. I had to wait some time to go back to school, and you know, just being a busy mom with a newborn was difficult. Then I had another one. So when I had the second one, I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I have to do something for myself. Like, I literally felt lost in translation, if you want to say.
Right.
Like, I felt like I was just living for my children, and I had lost any and all hope for myself.
Hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. No.
So
Completely.
I was so concentrated on being a mom, and just I completely forgot about myself. But anyways, time goes by. I go back to school at sometime in 2009. I start my associates. I pause it. My husband has joined the army. My
Hmm.
husband was in the army at that time. He then we came back home, and I was like, you know what? In 2013, I was like, I have to resume my school. I gotta take it serious. Like, I want to do. I really want to go back to school. My kids were growing up already. They were
Hmm.
grown. They were. My daughter was about to go to university. She's about to leave the house. The other one was, they're just growing, and so I had more time. I was like, I'm gonna go back to school. In 2014, I received my associates in health management.
Hmm.
I take a break, and I was like, okay, fine, I feel good. So, because just going back to school is difficult, because it's time, it's money,
Right.
it's a lot. You have to dedicate yourself, and it's very difficult. So for 2016, my daughter says, okay, I'm going to college. I'm going to USF. I'm like, okay. I'm like, you know what? I sat there. I'm like, she's growing up. She's about to leave. The other one is going to high school. The other one is going to middle school. It's time for me.
Right.
I'm gonna do this for myself. So I was like, I go to my husband. Hey, I think I want to go back to school, and I want to get my bachelor's. And eventually, I want to become a therapist. I want to be a therapist.
Hmm.
And he had encouraged me, because he started going to therapy right after he came out of the army in
The army.
2013, right? He comes out because his mom was sick, and all his family members were not doing very well at that point. So he's like, I can't stay in the army. I'm not gonna sign again. I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna go home, and just spend whatever time my mom, my dad, and whoever
Mhm.
whoever needs me because things were bad, bad. So that's how my road started. So then I finished my write up in 2019, right before COVID starts popping up in 2019, December 2019. On the 27th is my last day of school. I finished my undergrad and my bachelor's in psychology. It's like, okay, if
Oh.
I did it in 3 years and 4 months, fine. And I was like, man, I was pondering and I was going in circles and I was like, oh my God. But man, to become a mental health therapist it's quite,
It's the
it's a
journey.
journey. It's a huge journey.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, you know what? I told my husband, I think I really do want to go for my master's. And he's like, do it. Like, my husband's always like, do it. I'm the one like, I'm scared. Like,
Right?
it's a
Yeah.
lot. What about if I fail? What about if I'm not accepted and I apply to schools and I'm not accepted? You know,
Right.
always that imposter syndrome. What if I'm not gonna be able to do this? Like,
Mhm.
my husband's like, you're gonna do this because, excuse me, the word he's always tells me, you're a bad bitch.
Yep. That's the whole point of this. And I mean, that's the whole point of it. You
my hus-
are.
my husband's like, he's always like boosting me. He's like, you're a bad bitch. You got this. You're my smart bitch. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
god, babe. And I just cracked up because he's like, he's joking. But I was like, okay, so I'm gonna do this. And then I applied. I got accepted. I got my acceptance letter in 2021 in in January.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, March 29th of 2021, I started grad school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fast forward to today, it's the 20, I walked, actually 3 days ago, I walked the stage to graduate as a mental health therapist. I got my master's of social work. So yeah, it's been a long road, but worth it. And I am very proud of saying that I came this way, such a long way, because I was a teen mom. I
Yeah.
dropped out of school, you know. I
Right.
dropped out of high school. I had to do everything differently, my way. It
Right.
took me the longer route. It took me the longer road, but you
You
know,
got there, and that's the biggest thing. And that's kind of like the whole purpose of my podcast. I want to share an inside view of people's lives. And I can talk about myself for days, but the fact that I met you on TikTok back in I think 2021 when you enrolled, um, two, you're Latina, and three, you're a teen
Hondureña.
mom.
I'm from Honduras. Soy
You beat
costeña.
Yes. you, you basically beat the statistics, and that's so inspiring and so empowering too. Like, nobody, if there's somebody in my lifetime that I've seen push so hard, it's definitely been you. And not only through like the TikToks, but like just in all like general. And on top of that, you kept the household running. Like, you kept the family going. Girl, you have superpowers. Let me tell you that.
I'm exhausted for the most part. I'm not even gonna lie. It looks all nice and stuff when you're posting, but I've had conversations with you before how difficult it. There are moments that I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
this? Like, I'm
Yeah.
just tired. I'm exhausted. I'm not even gonna lie. Today, I woke up and I was like, oh my god, I don't want to go to. I'm working. I got a job. I was able to land
Oh,
from my
nice.
internship, so I'm not. I'm like been busy.
Yes.
I'm an employee therapist. So
That's
that's a good thing. And yeah, so I think that it's very important for us to have all the education when it comes to trauma,
yeah.
childhood trauma,
Yes.
and
Yes.
how do you deal with it, and how do you prevent. There's so many ways that we can prevent this too. And you invited me over to talk about that. So
Yeah.
childhood, what when you hear childhood trauma, what does that sound like to you?
Uh I think what I'm living through right now is just like flashbacks of situations that I didn't feel good at the time that now I can actually say, holy, maybe, I experienced that in a way I wasn't supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I'm older, and And you know what? It's funny that you say, what do I think about it? I I never really understood it until now, being a mom of two boys,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um so yeah, I think what I'm feeling at that point in time was childhood trauma to me. So some sort of trauma, right? Um and to this day, like we're all experiencing it, like,
Mm-hmm.
on if we look at it on a broad spectrum. We may not notice it at first, but at some point in time, like, you might be drinking your coffee, or you might
Mm-hmm.
be outside with your kids, and you're like, some situation pops up in your head, and you're like, man,
Mm-hmm.
like, why am I feeling this type of way,
Uh-huh.
right? So what obviously, in a Latina household, you and I, what do you think is the biggest trigger that causes childhood trauma?
The lack of education.
Yeah.
The lack of education and the lack of us as adults trying to heal our lineage.
Right.
So, childhood, when you refer to childhood trauma, it's just, you know, it's like you said, adverse experiences. What did I go through as a child? Physically, emotionally, my well being, how was that? How did they speak to me? How did they treat me? Unfortunately, sexual abuse is very prominent in our communities.
Right.
Neglect,
Big time.
allowing the older kids, the adult kids, the bigger kids to take care of the little ones. That's
Hmm.
neglect.
You know what? I'm I'm glad you touched on that point, because all my life, and now that I'm looking at it, all my life I was tending to either my brother or my sister or my cousins.
I'm the
And
eldest.
yeah, exactly. So we were put up on a maybe even set up to a point that, we were engraved in our head that, if you don't do this certain way, then, us or my at least my parents would frown upon me, because I'm just like, am I not doing enough? Like,
Hmm.
that type of situation. So I totally get it. And like you said, as being the oldest, there's so much expectation, right?
Yep.
What do you think now, like, in the era that we're living in now?
Mhm.
um what do you see more prominent? Is it, generational trauma causing childhood trauma, or, like you were saying, like, more so like the sexual abuse situations, um or even like the loneliness, because I know a lot of people, they deal with loneliness because they've encountered something in their past.
Absolutely. And another thing that I forgot to admit, that I omitted, and you were speaking, is also witnessing violence, domestic violence. That's child abuse. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I was like, I became a domestic. You remember I was
Mm.
doing my practicum at a shelter, of domestic violence agency, and I learned things that I was like, oh.
That left you
And
kind
it's
of,
so insane how everything is interconnected.
right.
Like, all this is abuse. And then we fall under domestic abuse, and domestic abuse is so broad. It's verbal, it's physical,
Mhm.
it's withholding information,
Mhm.
money, anything that that you may want to use, like if you need new clothes, anything. It's like, I'm like, wow. Like, my eyes were so opened, and throughout that time, that these traumatic events are just catastrophic, and they
Yeah.
have such lasting effects on us, and the children that are developing, and it affects their mental health, believe it or
Yeah.
not.
And to this day, to this very day, I can tell you that if it wasn't, not only for you, but also like the, articles and podcasts that I've been
Mm-hmm.
listening and being attentive to, I I would have just stuck my mental health in the back burner,
Uh-huh.
right? Like, I
Yeah.
would. And it's taking me, I'm almost 40, so it's taken me all this time to kind of just say, you know what, Raquel, put yourself first. Start healing from, all this animosity and all that is created. And for that matter, like it's like you said, viewing it from the outside in is
Mm-hmm.
so eye opening. It really is. Uh, what would you say is the biggest in a Latino household?
Uh-huh.
Um, the biggest trigger, not only for like a spouse, like a couple, but also for like family. Like what are we finding nowadays that triggers the abuse, the verbal abuse, the physical abuse, all that stuff?
It's a generational trauma. These things are so ingrained within our system, within how we are raised, that it just keeps being passed down from generation to generation. Abuse,
Hmm.
abuse, and abuse in every single word. Like, you, any type of abuse you can think of, how we speak, how we just, instead of telling our children, hey, when you have a chance, can you do so and so for me, and just please and thank you. I
Right.
do it.
Right.
I tell my children please and thank you all the time. And I have adult kids. I beat you
Mm.
to it. I'm 45.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just keep it quiet. I'm way older than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, I feel like we feel adults feel in our community that children owe us something.
Okay. Okay.
Children do not owe us a damn thing.
Right.
Who chose to bring that child into this life? Now you tell me.
Right. Right.
So what do our kids owe us? Nothing. It's our responsibility to
Yeah.
see and foresee, even when they're adults. You don't just kick your child at 18 and tell them, hey, you need to leave because now you got to work. Now you got to face the real life. Because that's what I was told.
Me too. Me too.
I would I would be mortified if I would tell that to my child, that they come and looking for me and they need my help and they need me, and I'm gonna say, um, go figure it out yourself.
No, thank
How?
you.
Dímelo. Like,
Yeah. No.
can you explain that to me?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just horrible. It's just terrible, the way we communicate, the way we keep dragging these old, outdated ways of communicating with our children and helping our children out. Like, we're supposed to help them out by throwing them to the wolves.
Yeah.
Basically, that's
Yeah. Yeah. So I know you've seen my video. So that's basically how I grew up. My parents expected, that I set up my life where I get the education, I get the $1 million pay job, I drive the car of the year, and little did they know. And to this day, I'm going to explain something to you. I love them.
Mhm.
It's like you said, parents bring your
Yeah.
kids into this life for that reason. You decide to have kids for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
But because this is generational trauma has been engraved from, way back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
um I I do feel a sense of loneliness. I
Mm-hmm.
do feel like it took me forever to set my boundaries with my parents. We
Mm-hmm.
we live with my parents, so they
Mm-hmm.
it's like you were saying. So because we live with them, and I mean, we do help with the bills and
Right.
food and things like
There's
that.
nothing wrong with that. That's
Right.
okay.
But their expectation is something else. Their
Mm-hmm.
expectation is my word and my word only,
Even now that you're an adult.
even now that I'm an adult.
Oh my,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. So when I'm the person, like, we're not on speaking terms at this point in time, but when I'm trying to tell them, how I feel and how, things really should be, I feel like they always turn the blind eye, and they're always like, no, 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 like, you don't know what, little girl, you don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they
That's,
dismiss you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's been,
dismissive. Yeah.
my whole entire life. But I was scared to put up a boundary.
Oh yeah.
Why? Because they were always so authoritarian to
Mm-hmm.
me, And if I did, or if I said something that wasn't their way, like I would be fearless. Like I
Mhm.
would be like shaking in my boots. So, do you find that we put up boundaries later in life?
We learn. Like I was telling you, the impact of childhood trauma is adverse. It it's so damaging both emotional and psychologically, and the effects that it leaves us. Like you were saying, I'm heading there. Like you were saying, it would leave me like like shit, and I'm scared just to put up my boundaries and say no. But we have to learn. And it's so disruptive to the child that we dismiss the child's feelings. And as that child grows up, that child is going to allow anything and everything to be done to them because we were expected, because my parents were so authoritative with me and wanted me to do everything their way that I'm gonna anyone that comes up to me, I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna accept any kind of abuse, and I'm gonna be like, okay, and I'm gonna take it. You see the connection?
You're opening my eyes, girl. Oh, you're getting me.
Yeah.
You're so getting me.
And it's like it's just, and this is why, and I feel like children in our community and children should be also seen as themselves, as individuals, not not as a thing. Oh, I own you and you got to do what I say, and you have to do however I say whenever I want. No,
Mhm. Mhm.
it's not it. I mean, there's a fine line, and I understand this because people, I know they're gonna come for me like, no, but my kid has to do whatever I say. No, you can ask. You can be nice to your kids. What do you think that these kids, when they become adults, they don't want to see their parents?
Right?
You tell me. And then the parents are like, oh, but you don't call me, but you don't come and see me for what? What did you give me when I was a child? How did you know how much trauma you caused me?
Mhm.
Apologize, accept your wrongdoings, and then we can move forward. If not, then no.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's
Oh yeah.
like no, and this is why we shouldn't allow our children. Like you have babies. I'm mine are grown already. But you have boys. Teach them how to express themselves.
I'm
Teach them
I'm
how
glad
to.
I'm glad you brought that up because Alonzo, he has been clinically diagnosed with ADHD.
Oh,
So
okay,
so he is on a different spectrum. We're going to go and get the autism evaluation done next month.
okay.
So we have been, at least me, I should say me.
Mhm.
I have been very open to the fact that, he is going to express himself differently, and he's going to act and associate himself in society completely different than what we were brought up as.
And what is
But
society gonna say because of his behavior?
that literally there's so many stereotypes that they can say. And
Right.
that's the
And
point I was.
if he misbehaves or does something that is not within norms, what are they gonna say? Ay, este muchacho es malcriado. Ay, este no hace caso.
Yeah.
Well, let him be. Like
Yeah.
he's different. Like, and this is why we even have more trauma because we don't understand mental health. Oh, ADHD. We didn't have that when we were growing up. Yes, we did. It's just you didn't go
you
diagnose me.
you didn't look it up in a book like you were supposed to.
You didn't educate yourself properly on these issues. So
Yeah.
you fucked me up.
Exactly.
You would be my ass because I had ADHD, or I was autistic and I didn't understand, or I had depression and anxiety and you guys don't believe in it.
Nothing. They don't believe in anything, and
Nothing.
that's my biggest pet peeve. That to this day, I don't think my parents will ever under. My mom maybe, but my dad, mm-mm. My dad is so like to the old school. He's
I'd
like,
admit, yeah.
este niño no, o sea, no para. And I was like, well, yeah, I know. And you know what? It's not that we're not doing good to him, saying, don't jump. Because his thing is he
He
likes
has
to
a
jump when
disorder.
he's excited. Yeah,
He has
exactly.
ADHD. He cannot control that. And that's what people do not understand.
Yeah, that they need to.
We have a disorder. We act different. I myself, I'm very open about my own mental health. I was recently diagnosed not last January, 22, in January 22, I was diagnosed, which it took me a long time to actually take that step and say, okay, I want to get diagnosed because I feel that this is more than, what I think
What it is.
since, I was more into, my career as a therapist. And I have PTSD, severe depression,
Hmm.
and bipolar depression.
That's
Right. So what bipolar depression is that I think I put I'd be putting information on my socials, and I
uh-huh.
have, so bipolar depression is like you're not either one, because there's bipolar 1 and 2. So I'm not either one or the other. Like I'm like in the middle. So I
Okay.
have some traits from bipolar 1 and I have some traits from bipolar 2. So it's bipolar depression. So I don't meet all the requirements for 1 or 2, but I have some from here and some from here. So I'm in the middle. So that's what
Okay.
bipolar depression is. And people also, they're like, when people hear, oh, bipolar, they're like, oh, this lady is nuts. She's,
Crazy. Está loca. Yeah.
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 I mean, yeah, I might be a little bit.
R-
I am. Not
yeah.
just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. But it's like people don't understand that I just need I need to sleep extra. I need more sleep than
Then you,
anybody
yeah.
else. I
Yeah.
need it.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that. I'll be like, why am I so tired all the time? I need a little bit of extra sleep. I need more. I've always been high functioning. I used to have high functioning anxiety my whole entire life
Hmm.
because I was the eldest. I had to do everything in my home. And then I got married and I had to take care of my husband and my kids and my kid, one kid after the other one, and I took care of everybody around me by myself.
And then look at what ended up happening. Like,
You see how it shows up?
oh man, it literally, I kid you not. You, and when I say again that you are such an inspiration to me, it's because I I think, I keep saying it, that I need to go get tested. I need to go get tested because I know for a fact that I have anxiety through the roof.
Yes.
I definitely have
Oh,
some
I have
sort of,
generalized anxiety too. Don't even go. I have to take a pill for that.
oh man, and no matter how much coffee I stop, or the sugar intake that
I
it's
mean, it
still
helps.
there.
It helps.
Yeah,
It helps. Like I would spend days, like to the point that I wouldn't sleep for days,
that's
for days,
insane.
my whole entire life. I was cleaning and doing stuff at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. That's not normal.
Right?
When
So
people say, "Oh, I'm just an owl," I prefer to clean at nighttime. No, you're mentally ill. Oh, I can't sleep. I have insomnia. I just can't sleep. No,
mhm.
you might be mentally ill.
Yeah.
Not everybody is, but for the majority, like for everybody that I've come across, they end up getting diagnosed, and they are mentally ill, and that's why they can't function properly.
Do you think people are afraid to term themselves mentally ill?
Yeah, they are. It's the stigma, you know, uh, connected to the fact that you have a label, and people don't like that, especially in our communities, because now
And
you
I
have a
feel
label.
like, yeah, and I feel like what isn't labeled nowadays? What isn't labeled?
And it's good to know, honestly, because now I understand myself. I give myself a lot more grace now. I'm like, okay, it's like, okay, this, I'm fine. Like, I was supposed to like work out yesterday and today,
Mhm.
but I have a busy schedule. I'm a therapist. I'm in my office giving therapy, doing notes, and doing all the work that I have to be doing. And I come home, I
Y-
clean, I cook, and I'm finishing up my last few days, my last 2 weeks of my internship. But it's like I have to give myself grace. And by the way,
Yeah.
I've gained like 25 pounds in the last 2 years. I it makes me it drives driving me crazy.
Is
It's just,
it though?
yeah, it does. Because I was so fit. I was so used to being so fit for so long. You know,
Mm.
it's like, oh my God, but
That
that's
is.
another podcast. That's a
Yeah, no.
podcast.
I get it. No, I do. I get it.
I get
uh yeah, so going back to the whole label situation, I'm not going to say that I was scared to be labeled as having, a mental health issue, but when it came to my kid, when it came to Alonzo, oh man, I was my parent, like I was literally my dad. I was like, no, how is this possible?
yeah.
Like the teachers are full of shit. Like they're giving me all these
Hmm.
results back from his first couple of years at
Hmm.
school, and I couldn't grasp it, and I couldn't. But the
It's hard.
funny thing,
It's not
the
easy.
funny thing is, Marla, though, after they said it and
Hmm.
after we started noticing
Hmm.
his trends, his patterns. we started
Mm.
we started going back to his childhood.
Oh, you had your aha moment.
I had my aha moment. I had my aha moment. So that kind of brought it down, like it smacked me back down to earth, and I was like, Raquel, it was there. Like you can't
You were
you
just
can't
adamant.
mom's love, right? Mom's love for your child is one and pure, and you want
Yeah.
them to be okay. Shit, and everything that happened to me, like through cancer, I did
Yeah.
not want any of that for my child. And then look, he comes out with a kidney problem and now, ADHD. But what happens, I literally had to understand
Hmm.
where it all stems from. So I guess what I'm trying to say is both his ADHD and his kidneys are
Hmm.
related, they're correlated.
Hmm.
So come August, when either myself or my husband go
Hmm.
to talk to the specialist,
Hmm.
we have to roll out like the videos, the our notes, our because I had no idea. Like, and tell the people out there like listening to this podcast who have an ADHD child,
Hmm.
how should we feel, or how should we prepare ourselves for that?
I don't think we can ever prepare enough when it comes to um, mental, disorders and finding out that your child or yourself or anyone around you has it. But educate yourself. Don't be afraid of the label. Don't be afraid of the name attached to a mental health disorder. It's not the end of the world. There's so many of us out here. Have you ever? I'm sure you're a fan of X-Men.
Yeah.
Have you ever wondered how they're so different and how they held special powers and how
That's a
they
good
were
question.
off and they were ousted by the rest of society because they had
That's
special powers?
oh
Doesn't
so
it seem like
yeah, wow,
that was
okay,
different?
yeah, yeah, it's
And
crazy, that's crazy.
it is. But all we have to do, we don't have to be afraid. All we have to do is educate ourselves about the situation.
Yeah.
Read, go to therapy, find books, go to online and find viable resources, not just anyone saying crazy stuff. It's like because
Mhm.
that's another other because there's people out there just giving misinformation, but make sure that your information comes from a viable source and it's correct, from a professional.
From a
But mental health disorders, ADHD, and anything, any other, like you said, for yourself and anybody else, my advice is educate yourself and don't be afraid of the tag of the name of being labeled as that. It's just a disorder.
yeah,
You're gonna have to live with it, and the more you know about it, the better it is because the more you're gonna learn how to manage it and live with it in peace. Because let me tell you, having a mental illness and not accepting that you have it can be hell for you. It's hell.
in what way?
Why? That's because the thing is that people deny themselves so many things. Like, bro, that you're bipolar. Like, this. Why are you not taking care of yourself? Why are you not doing what you need to be doing to better yourself and feel better with the symptoms that you have?
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
what's the problem? What happens that when we don't accept those things, they can cause us more damage, more trauma.
Hmm.
And the fact that, like you said, me, you were upset and you were like, "Why my son?" Like, no, he, nah, y'all, nah, y'all are crazy. My son doesn't have anything. If you would have kept living in denial, Alonzo would have had an even harder time. Like I was
Right.
telling you, what happens? Oh, we didn't, like, when they're saying, our people, our elders say, "Oh, we didn't have that in my time." Oh, yes, we did. You just failed me greatly.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
failed me as a parent. You didn't take care of me. You gave me more trauma for being different. Again, X-Men. I'm referencing my X-Men because that's my son's name, Xavier.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
love
awesome.
X-Men. And it's like, we felt our children so terrible, and then our children have to live with that and carry that on for the rest of their lives. And not also that, you keep transferring and carrying that generational trauma. Have you seen the cup?
Yeah, yeah.
Have you seen the cup video
Hmm.
where, the mother is full of trauma, and then the next generation, they try to better it, and it starts to clear up a little bit, and then the next generation, till finally they get to the following generation, and it's all
It's
gone.
yeah,
That's what we
yeah.
need to be working on. And
I
just having, just having a label and a tag attached to something that we have as a mental health disorder does not define us. It
right,
does not make us any worse, but we'll learn how to manage it. At least we know. And now, okay, Alonzo is, he's having one of his moments right now. And I'm not going to beat the shit out of him because I know what he has.
right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying? What would happen back in the day if
We would get our ass beat.
thank you.
We would get our ass beat. Yeah,
You see the connections,
yeah.
and it's like, if we were educated more, if we would to educate ourselves more, then that's the key word. I mean, it takes me back because I'm like, wow. And I just think, I'm like, all these situations that we have lived as children could have been prevented, and we would have better lives now. I'm not saying we're not going to have, other types of trauma, because when we were up, we have heartbreaks, we have heartaches, we experience things, but we should be experiencing these things as adults, not as kids, and not even as adults.
Yeah,
As soon as something happens like that, and somebody's abusing you or doing something to you, or they need to go to jail, you need to leave, and you need to do what's best for you
right,
and put up those boundaries,
right.
right? So at the end of the day, that's what happens. That children, that impact of childhood trauma, it's just the emotion. We're not able to emotionally regulate.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up.
You had it. Yeah, I was gonna. We cannot. It disrupts the child's ability to regulate those emotions, and that can hide. That would lead to heightened stress, and it just they can't manage those emotions.
Okay, so when I was growing up here, like I obviously immigrated to Canada, everything's so brand new. We're expected to live the Latin American culture in a Canadian household.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that happened to me, I would bottle up those emotions. I
Mm-hmm.
would, be angry, but and to this day, I cry. I can cry for anything. And I never correlated it to, what had happened to me in the past. Because my husband to this day, if we get into an argument, he'd be like, "Why are you crying?" I'm like, "Well, I'm angry. Like I'm upset, and that's how I'm coping."
Yeah.
But why? Because nobody, and I'm not saying that my parents were never there, but nobody would
No.
come up to me and be like,
Yes.
"How you feeling? I love you.
Mm-hmm.
The situation, it'll pass. New experiences will come." My
Comfort. We
parent,
didn't have the
yeah,
comfort.
my parents were, and as bad as this is gonna sound to everybody on this podcast, my my whole cancer journey, they were not there.
No way. Wow. Sorry to
They
hear that.
they were not there in a way that I needed them the most.
Yes.
And talking to you now, thinking about how, I told my parents about my cancer
Mm-hmm.
diagnosis, the way they reacted
Mm-hmm.
was that themselves, like blaming themselves as to why I was sick or why
Mm-hmm.
I had the cancer. But here's the interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was diagnosed, I went above and beyond. Like I did all the research myself. I
Mm-hmm.
asked, what could possibly have caused this. Obviously, I was like one in 50 women that this happened to. But if I were to go back to, let's say, like my mom and be like, "Hey mom, on your side, did you have anybody that had ovarian cancer?"
Mm-hmm.
Her response would have been like, "I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea."
Yeah.
So that's where I needed her the most, to be like, "You know what? Let me find out."
We don't
Be-
talk about it. We just don't talk about it's like, again, referencing another movie. We don't talk about Bruno. What do we do as Latinos in our community?
mhm.
We shove everything in away. We cover it up, and it's gonna be locked up forever and ever. And we don't talk about anything or anything bad that goes on. All the traumatic things,
Yeah.
anything, child, the molesters in the family. They're just there. They didn't do anything. We defend them. We take care of them,
That blows my mind to this day.
bro.
Why we defend them?
I don't know. They should be locked up somewhere, and yet the ones that are being shamed are their children, and the ones that are being abused.
Right.
But again, it all goes back, and the thing is that the problem with childhood trauma, it affects, it increases anxiety,
Mhm.
depression, PTSD,
Mhm.
right here. I have all that, and low self-esteem. I've had to learn how to love myself for so long because I never thought that I was pretty enough, ever, like ever.
Really?
I
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it, but I was. It was, and it just, and then again, also behavioral. It causes behavioral issues, substance abuse, aggression, self-harm. How children develop.
Mhm.
It's identity formation. It's we can sit here and talk
The
all
list goes
day,
on. Yeah.
and it's there's so, and we can see the emotional signs.
Yeah.
It looks like persistent feelings of anxiety, sadness, and hopelessness, anxiety and depression, fearfulness, excessive fears and phobias, particularly related to reminders of the trauma, right? Difficulty trusting others, reluctance to form new relationships or
Big time.
engage with peers.
Me.
Yeah, physical symptoms. Me too. Physical symptoms. Sleep disturbances, insomnia, nightmares,
Yes.
night terrors, changes in appetite, either eating too much or eating too little. Somatic complaints, frequent headaches, stomach aches, physical complaints, anything that like anything can hurt you and you feel pain, but there's no medical,
Mhm.
any medical reinforcements there that can say, but these are somatic
Yeah.
complaints,
Yeah.
and it's just we are not able to cope properly, and it's just yeah, it's just like, and it's it's never ending, but we can always heal. We can always find healing. I mean, I think therapy is great, but it's not the only thing that you can do because
Right.
there's so many forms of therapy.
Mhm.
You can do art, somatics. You can do art, you can dance, you can work out. If it works for you, you do whatever you do that works for you.
Right.
Now, if you don't find that that's helping you or it's helping you, but you feel like you still need to talk to someone, then find someone to talk to. And there's many ways of finding those resources. Difficult because mental health is very expensive. It's
Very.
very well covered, but yeah, a lot of people do take advantage of their jobs. They have really good jobs. They work for corporations, and they have these things called EAP,
Mhm.
where you're
We have it.
Yeah,
We have it.
where your company will allow you to go and take certain sessions, and they will pay for it. So
Yeah.
I think that's one of the best things that you can just take advantage of those things. But yeah, trauma is it is serious.
It's ongoing, and I'm still healing my inner childhood trauma to this day. Like, you can ask anybody around me, it is something that I still have to work on. And you know what? I'm
That's
hoping
okay.
for better days. And to your point, healing is something I've prioritized now. And it's like there's no other way of saying it. Like, if I come off rude,
No.
or if I'm, standoffish, and I put up my boundary, that's because I'm, in a sense, protecting myself, but also I am thinking about how to stop it, nip it in the butt. Like, and it's like you said, when those cups are overflowing, and eventually you get to that one that's just clear and doesn't, show any signs of generational trauma. I think we would be such a better, in my personal opinion, we would be such a much better household. However, in that aspect,
Mm-hmm.
my sister and myself,
Mm-hmm.
we've kind of hit a point where, uh, we're trying to tell our parents that, hey, not only are we adults and living our own lives, but,
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, we are still struggle, like, we still struggle. And
Mm-hmm.
that's okay, because that's just a sign of growth. And all we need from you guys is just to be supportive and in our corner, and, tell us, everything is okay.
It's difficult to stand up to your parents and say what's wrong, but that's on them. That's their problem, not yours. And talk your shit, express yourself. Because again, the fact that we have to suppress so many of these feelings and all this trauma and all these things that we're going through can show up physically later on in life.
Yeah. Yeah, I do believe that.
It
I do,
does.
honestly.
And also, one last thing, loving your parents and healing for you, not liking what your parents did and you healing, but still loving your parents can coexist.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. I love my mom. I love my mother. My mother is my everything because she worked so hard for me, and I know and I recognize all the good things in life that she did. But
Right.
there's a lot of things that I've spoken to her. I've been healing on that side too, and I've
Hmm.
spoken to her and I told her everything that I thought that she didn't do for me. And we're good on that side. We're both healing, and we always talk, and we have that open communication now. But I told her, listen, you did this, and this, and that caused me a lot of trauma. This hurt me. You did all these things to me, but it doesn't take away the fact that she still was a great mom in her own
Right.
way. So they can coexist at the same time. Just because you're calling out a parent for the bullshit, for
Yeah.
the trauma, does not
Yeah.
mean that you don't love them.
Right.
They coexist.
You're
And
gonna make me
also,
cry.
no, I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah,
no, no. It's okay. It's okay,
yeah,
because that's my biggest thing. Like,
yeah.
woo. Okay. Is it possible to coexist
Yeah.
without, feeling the hurt and the anger, and, you did this to me, but, I'm trying to give you a second chance at life. Just, I wish you were more open about it.
Right, and it just takes time because if you express to them and you educate them too, which it sucks because sometimes we have to like open that door and help them, educate them a little bit because they're like, like my mom is very open to it, and she's like, oh, like I didn't know that. I was like, oh, okay, well now you know. you
Hmm.
know but it can coexist. I mean, if there's also a point where you're like, I'm gonna put up a boundary, and I'm just not gonna have a relationship with you, that is also difficult, but that is also up to you. That is something that individually everybody has to come to their decision and do what they need to do for themselves. But for the most part, it's hard. healing
Yeah.
healing healing is hard. It's not easy. It's not an easy road. And but I do recommend it because when you come out the other side, you're gonna be like, I'm glad I did this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, girl. Well, I am. You know what though? Like not because you're the person that I've, you know, till from the day that I met you to now, like you're still so real and so, you know, you tell it how it is. Like it just feels so much more different. And obviously therapist beside your name is a huge difference. but but like if anything, and if you're listening to this or if you're watching this, you know, it's like like Marla was saying, it's just a matter of yes, time heals all, but it's how you essentially direct it. And um, you know, the best way to get help is to ask for it. And I think Marla, you'll agree with me that if you ask for the help, you're given the resources and you're given, you know, that plan to succeed in life. And kind of like myself, where yes, I have my family drama, but also
We all do.
yeah, after dealing with my scare, you know, I'm open to the second chance at life because you know why, I was given that. And now I do feel like I'm ready and more comfortable to approach therapy. I'm ready to, you know, trust more, and I'm ready to do things on myself, but also be, you know, self-confident about it, because that's
Right.
the biggest thing. If you don't have confidence in yourself, then,
Yeah.
you know, you're kind of going nowhere in a sense.
It's a process, you know. There's nothing there's no right way, and it's not linear because you probably feel like you're doing good, and then you go back, and then you go, and then you go back all the way down, and you have to start all over. That's how healing feels. But it is worth it. It is worth it for you, for yourself, for your well-being, for your mental, wellness. Like it's so liberating.
Yeah.
Not giving a shit about what nobody cares.
Yeah.
Telling people no, or telling people this is not what happened, this is what it is, or just saying this person is not good for me, they're out of my life. Bye. And not
Bye.
suffering. That is the hard part. But that's what I've learned. And I this is the best decision I ever made for myself, my
Uh,
family, and everything, everyone around me. So I have no regrets.
and I can see it, like you're just radiating, you know, like I did that, and that's so empowering. And if anybody wants to follow Marla, Marla, let them know where they can follow you.
Yeah, all of my handles, Instagram and TikTok, it's Healing Marla. Very simple. Healing Marla. You guys can follow me, and I try to share as much um, information about mental health and empowering women. I just love. I feel like I've made so many great connections and so many great friends, and I am blessed to have found you as one.
Yes.
And thank you for being part of my community. I built my
Yes.
community. I found my people, and you're my people.
Yes, and I'm so happy. Honestly, there no other way about it. Like it's just it.
I love TikTok. You see, before I would never have done none of this. This is not me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I would never talk about sit on a podcast and talk about mental health. What? Share about my bipolar diagnosis on the internet. My family gave me shit for sharing all that. Or
Mhm.
like, oh, are you crazy? You're crazy. La la la. I was like, I don't care. My therapist said it was fine.
Yeah, yeah.
My
Ex-
therapist, I asked my therapist, hey, I want to do this, this. She's like, I feel like if you feel like it's gonna help you heal and it's something that you want to do it. And so I did. And here I am.
exactly. Exactly. All right. Well,
Thank you.
we're going to end it here, guys. Again, if you are listening, please like all the social media handles, Life of a Bus Turned Mama podcast, but also mine, Life of a Bus Turned Mama. And on top of that, you can find Marla in my socials. So it's a win-win situation.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Yes,
I
yes.
love you so much, friend. Well, I have to
No.
go visit you in Canada.
Yes, or me come visit you.
Whenever you're in town. Oh, sorry.
Either way, that's okay. All right, so we're signing off. Bye.
Bye.